From terrifying campfire tales to chilling urban legends, these are some scary stories that will keep you up at night. So turn off the lights, snuggle into your blankets and prepare yourself for a night of fright. No. 1. The Hitchhiker. A man was driving home late one night when he saw a woman standing by the side of the road with her thumb out, hitching a ride. It was a long walk to the next gas station, so the driver pulled over and offered her a seat in his car. He was surprised that she hadn't been seen by any other cars. She thanked him and got into the car. She sat down, fastened her seatbelt, and leaned over to try to look at his face, which was covered in bandages. As they drove along the highway, the girl spoke first, breaking the silence. "Are you sure we're going the right way?" she asked, her voice strangely high-pitched and distorted. The man glanced at her and replied, "Of course I am. I live on this road." To his surprise, she suddenly went quiet. As they approached his house, the driver felt a sudden chill run down his spine. He turned to see the girl staring straight ahead with an eerie smile on her face. He could see what looked like flesh hanging from her mouth. Her eyes were vacant and soulless. Her skin was a ghastly white, stretched tight over her bones, giving her an emaciated appearance. When the man opened the door, instead of getting out, the girl whispered something that made him freeze. "Don't worry," she said, her voice now a raspy whisper. "I won't bite you. I'll just have to drain you slowly." The man screamed and tried to close the door, but it was too late. The girl had already slid out of the car and was standing in front of him with a pair of sharp, pointed teeth. She lunged forward and sunk her fangs into his neck. As the man collapsed, the girl drank deeply of his blood, her eyes gleaming with a mixture of hunger and pleasure. With her thirst momentarily quenched, she wiped her mouth with the back of her hand and vanished into the darkness, leaving the man to bleed out on the doorstep. Number 2. The Vanishing Hitchhiker. A man was driving home after a long day when he spotted a young woman hitchhiking on the side of the dark road. Feeling sorry for her, he pulled over and offered her a ride. She thanked him and got in the car. The man continued on his way, occasionally glancing at the girl in the rearview mirror. As they approached his home, the man began to feel uneasy. The girl seemed to be staring at him intently, and her eyes appeared to glow an eerie green in the darkness. Suddenly, the girl in the back seat began to transform. Her skin grew pale and dry, her eyes glowed brighter, and her fingernails extended into sharp claws. She turned to face him, revealing a horrifying grin with sharp, pointed teeth. The man slammed on the brakes, skidding to a halt on the side of the road, terrified. The man turned to see the girl in the back seat no longer there. In her place was a small suitcase. Confused and frightened, he reached out to open the suitcase, but as he did, it disappeared, leaving him alone in the car on the deserted road. 3. The Creature in the Woods. Two friends were hiking in the woods when they heard a strange noise. At first they thought it was just the wind, but then they realized it was coming closer. They started to run, but whatever was making the noise was faster. They could hear its heavy breathing and the snapping of twigs under its weight. They ran until they came across a small cottage. One of them burst through the door, while the other, who was slower, was captured outside. He turned to see a horrifying creature standing behind him. Its skin was a sickly green color, and it had sharp claws and teeth. It lunged at him and knocked him unconscious. The friend who had gotten inside the cottage struggled to find the strength to lock the door. But before he could, the creature smashed through it and grabbed him. Both men were taken away into the darkness of the forest, and their fate is unknown. 4. The Ghost Train. A group of teenagers decided to play a prank on each other by telling scary stories around a campfire. One of them claimed that he had seen the ghost train, which was supposed to be haunted. Everyone laughed until one of them noticed a train approaching in the distance. They watched as the old train rumbled closer, its whistle echoing through the night. It seemed to be moving faster than a normal train, and there was something eerie about its sound. When it finally stopped, the teens were terrified to see that it wasn't the friendly ghost train they had expected. It was a gruesome scene. The carriage was filled with the bodies of people who had died in a horrific accident years ago. Some were decapitated, others had their limbs torn off. And the stench of death hung heavy in the air. The teens ran away as fast as they could, but the ghost train continued to move, searching for new victims. Number 5. The Haunted House. A young couple was looking for a cheap house to buy when they came across an old Victorian mansion on the outskirts of town. It looked beautiful, but the locals warned them that it was haunted. They ignored the warnings and moved right in. Strange things started happening almost immediately. They heard footsteps in the attic and doors creaked open on their own. Then they started finding old diaries in the walls, and they told a sad story of a family who had lived in the house many years ago. In the dead of night, they were jolted awake by terrifying screams and loud gunshots. They were so realistic that the couple spent the entire night huddled together in bed, too terrified to sleep. In the morning, they found out that the diary had ended with the tragic tale of a father who had killed his wife and children before taking his own life. They realized that they were living in a house filled with ghosts, and they fled as fast as they could. 6. The Demon Doll. An antique store owner purchased an old doll at an estate sale. She didn't know it was cursed, though. The doll had belonged to a young girl who had died tragically. The owner took the doll home without knowing that it would soon become a nightmare. That night, the doll moved on its own and whispered creepy messages to the owner. She tried to ignore it, but the whispering grew louder and more menacing. Then one night, the doll came alive and attacked the owner. It had sharp claws and teeth, and its eyes glowed red in the darkness. The owner fought back, but the doll was strong and vicious. She managed to escape, but she was badly injured. She took the doll back to the antique store and locked it in a display case. But it didn't stay there for long. One night, the store was robbed and the doll was stolen. The owner never saw the doll again, but she often hears its maniacal laughter echoing in her nightmares. 7. The Haunted Mirror. A young woman purchased an antique mirror at a flea market, unaware that it was cursed. She brought the mirror home and hung it up, and that's when the haunting began. She started seeing creepy figures in the mirror, and they seemed to be watching her every move. One day, she saw her own face in the mirror replaced by the face of a dead woman. The woman in the mirror had a horrifying expression, and she seemed to be reaching out to grab the young woman. The young woman screamed and fell to the floor in a dead faint. When she came to, she decided that she had to get rid of the mirror. She took it back to the flea market and threw it in the dumpster. But the mirror didn't stay there for long. One night, it was stolen by a group of teenagers who dared each other to take it home and see what would happen. One of the teenagers hung the mirror in his room, and that's when the hauntings began. He started seeing the same creepy figures, and one day he saw his own face replaced by the face of the dead woman. He screamed and tried to smash the mirror, but it wouldn't break. That's when the figure in the mirror reached out and grabbed him. He struggled, but it was no use. The mirror had claimed another victim. 8. The Monster Under the Bed. A young boy was staying over at his friend's house when he heard a strange noise coming from under the bed. He told his friend's parents, but they just laughed and said that it was probably just a mouse. The boy couldn't sleep that night, and he spent most of it hiding under the covers. Then he heard a scratching noise coming from under the bed. He peeked out and saw a pair of glowing red eyes. He screamed and hid his head under the blanket. In the morning, he told his parents what he had seen, but they just shrugged and said that it was probably just a cat. But the boy knew that what he had seen was something more sinister, and he never forgot the terrifying feeling of dread that had washed over him as he stared into those glowing red eyes. 9. The Graveyard. A group of friends decided to go to the local graveyard for a dare. They split up and started exploring the old cemetery. They found a mausoleum that was covered in graffiti, and they decided to go inside. The temperature inside was freezing cold, and they could hear chains dragging metal moans. Suddenly, they felt something brush against their legs. They turned around to see a ghostly figure dragging himself towards them. The friends screamed and ran away as fast as they could. They never looked back to see what was chasing them, but they could still hear its chains dragging behind them. 10. The Shadow People. A woman was driving home one night when she saw a pair of shadow figures standing at the side of the road. She stopped to ask if they needed help, but they just stared at her and made no sound. She got a bad feeling about the situation, so she rolled up her window and drove away. But the figures seemed to appear everywhere she went. They followed her to the grocery store, the gas station, and even her own home. She tried to shake them off, but they just kept appearing in the shadows. One night, she came home to find a note on her door that simply said, "You can't hide from us." She was terrified and didn't know what to do. One day, she found an old book on witchcraft that told her how to banish shadow people. She followed the instructions and performed the ritual, but it didn't work. The shadow people were here to stay. Now she spends her days hiding in her home, too afraid to go outside. The shadow people have won. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and leave us a comment. We appreciate hearing what you have to say, and we always respond to every comment. Let us know what you think about the video. If you liked it, tell us why. If you didn't, tell us why and what we can do to make better videos in the future. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and leave us a comment. We appreciate hearing what you have to say, and we always respond to every comment. Let us know what you think about the video. If you liked it, tell us why. If you didn't, tell us why and what we can do to make better videos in the future.